Welcome. I'm Greg Newton, and I'm a hypnotist and hypnotherapist. I'm here with Angie today.
I'm Angie Jade. I'm a somatic practitioner. I work out of Edmonds, Washington. I do a combination of energy work, body work, working in the subconscious, helping people with change, helping people deal with stress, helping them reach their goals.
You and I both met our coursework on hypnosis.
Correct. Yes.
And Angie's got me very jived on energy work, and it's part of what I use in every session now. I've gotten fantastic feedback from it.
You're going to have to tell me more about how you're using it.
Save that for today. We'll get into that because I'm here to talk to you. I actually came up with a conversation I was having with someone yesterday, a good friend of mine. I don't know what you're seeing on your side, but I've been getting quite a few people, particularly this time of year here in the Pacific Northwest. Some of them are dreading the loss of summer. There's all kinds of things that I'm not going to address in the world right now, leading to a lot of anxiety for people. I have my relatives that I help out with dealing with seasonal affective disorder, but it's not really anxiety. But it gets me talking about anxiety and some of my own struggles with it over the years. It's something I want to ask you about. It's more about the perception of it when people seek out help. It's this perception that when someone has anxiety, people tend to see it as you're broken or there's something wrong. I was curious, what are your thoughts on that when that's the perception people are dealing with when talking about anxiety or experiencing?
Feelings in general can be a struggle for people. Anxiety viewed as a form of weakness, right? That we need to be tougher, and there's a lot of value in being tough. I try to help people understand that anxiety is a natural response and a lesser form of fear. It's something present in our animal selves. It's a nervous system regulation or lack of regulation. Environmental stressors will ding your nervous system and start to weigh on it. And the intensity level of how much it's weighing on your system can look like anxiety. It can look like fear, right? If it's more intense, it can look like depression. Really, our nervous system has a range. And with the amount of environmental stressors, how much noise pollution, how much light, what type of light. It could be the emotional stressors in your life. It could be your finances, the feelings of how safe do we feel right now, and when was the last time we felt safe? So that's all kind of baked in there.
Yes, I guess something that I read from that is anxiety really isn't this enemy. Part of us physiologically, right? I don't require people ascribe to one mental framework or another. We're here as human beings. We populate the planet. We have changed societally, if not biologically. We have this relationship with anxiety. We manifest sensations. We feel anxiety. It's a pressure to do something, but it's not always clear what that is. I think that is sometimes what I see clients struggle with when they come in the door. And that is, you hear this exercise sometimes in a therapy context, which is name the feeling and going into and getting in touch with that in a somatic sense. Like, what is the tactile component that helps me understand what this feeling is correlated to? What I've experienced, because you've worked on it, it's not so much, okay, now the anxiety needs to be gone. In fact, my very first client, that was her presenting issue, was severe anxiety. I'm here in Stanwood, Washington. Speaking of environments, it's beautiful out here. It's just gorgeous. She lived in Ireland, and that's actually part of the story. And had a mid 60s, had children. She was married to one of the tribal natives here, and just terribly sheepish, always concerned what people thought about her. Turns out that my wife and I were her only friends. We had no idea about this, but she had a very small world. She just wants the anxiety gone. Actually, she had to be talked into, you probably want your anxiety gone, because she's been like this her whole life. And what we did was we worked on, why are you like this? I won't spoil it as to what all the work is I do. We didn't really make the anxiety go away, and she doesn't experience it anymore. anxiety can still crop up. I haven't made this person anxiety proof or anxiety immune. Something we learned in hypnosis is that there's no real deduction of experiences. You can't really eliminate anything. But what we did is help guide her to satisfying responses. What could you do about this anxiety? And what can't you do, which is just useless rumination and getting the subconsciousness to get on a different path of circuitry, a different way of thinking about it. Now,
About strategies for skills to come out of the obsessive circular thinking that comes along with anxiety, right? So
that's right.
you've primed her for some other option that she didn't have before, some other skill set that you offered her. Here's another option. You could go down this road or you could go down this road. So that's really all this stuff is like interrupting a process. Like I do that with somatic work, I do that with energy work. I'm interrupting a process so that people have more choices. You've got to be aware of it first. If you're overwhelmed by a feeling and you're like, I don't want this feeling, I don't want it, and you just try to throw it away, it
It's
doesn't.
still there.
So you want to interact with it. You want to be curious about it,
Mhm.
talk to it. You want to find out what's going on with this big feeling, right? And what are other options and why this way? So it sounds like that's where you arrived with this person.
I think you predicted it pretty well. It started with really to just stabilize someone. Like we need to teach them skills. When we have a personal trainer and there's another human being who has felt the weight that you have felt and understands and says what they need to say. So we worked on physical cues, grounding cues, things like where are you feeling the anxiety and addressing the early hypnosis sessions and trance work towards that and generate a different sensation for her. Then that allows us to work on the real resolving issues. We get upset for those first 90 seconds when something happens. The normal, everyday, aggressive things in life that really tick us off. When we go beyond that, we're just ruminating. That pattern interruption is key. She's actually a testimonial on my website. She lives in Portugal now.
Oh,
She was terrified. She only came to my practice one time for a session. Everything else we did over her cell phone. We did all the sessions over her cell phone. And 6 weeks later, she had her visa process. She lives in Portugal now. She's traveling all over Europe just from so many people. I wish I had tried this first.
sometimes we need someone else to be in the room with us, to walk with us on our path, to remind us that there are other options. We do get stuck in our own patterns. Even if you are multiple PhDs in therapy, I think we all need somebody else to work with. There is real limitation and habituation in our own minds that is not totally visible to ourselves. It's very valuable to work with someone. And it sounds like she was really ready for something. And you primed the pump for her. When I say ready, the irritation was getting so extreme for her. The pain was getting to a place that she was willing to try something new. And that's usually how it goes, change, which is a bummer because I'm always like, you don't have to take it so far. You could do this when it's just a little annoying versus controlling my life. But however people come to it.
I think this one particular person got trapped in the in-between space of someone with a psychiatric disorder, which she had not been diagnosed with, and which is one of the first things we check. What is your mental history? Where are you coming from? And most people don't have one that we talk to. They're not getting help. Now, I would say everybody I've talked to has been in therapy for years. And I usually have to overcome that with them. You're going to get to know me. I'm going to get to know you. We're going to go through a lot of journeying together in about as long as 6 weeks, usually 4. And then I hope I never see you again. In fact, I usually never do, unless it's some testimonial thing or they come and speak with me at a workshop. I have no interest either as a business person, that as a business model that doesn't make sense to me to continually bilk people month after month. Let's talk about your problems. What we're dealing with here is instead of talking around things, we're going to get you to a different mental state in an area where you're safe. Now, the reason that's important is that anxiety had an evolutionary purpose. It's something that's triggered from the subconsciousness in response to a pattern, to a recognition of something, real or imaginary. Usually it's imaginary. If you've ever heard of this concept of condensed experiences, you think that the same thing's going to happen again. This is what she was experiencing. Our subconsciousness is doing its job. When we experience anxiety, Angie and I are, believe it or not, even though with my weird glasses, I'm normal-ish. My point being, I'm not diagnosed with something where I need to go in for a very specific type of therapy. I just feel like crap. What got me very interested in hypnosis was actually physiological. I had severe tinnitus, which I no longer experience. But those changes can only happen when we get the subconsciousness to a point where we realize you're not in danger anymore, accept some new instructions about what's going on that the consciousness has been trying to tell it. So from your experience, how do you, like I've got my angle from it in my sphere of clients, and we have crossover hypnosis and some energy work. But what techniques do you use to help that client? You're a very likable person, but how do you get them at a subconscious level to learn safety again? What is it you do?
I can hit this from several different places, but I think first we have to give the mind a little something to do to focus the attention so that we can start to use it properly. In our jobs, we have the problem-solving mind, and that's great for those things. But when it comes to feeling safe and embodied, it's not great unless you are utilizing it in more of a observant kind of a way where you start to wonder to yourself, what's happening in my body? What's going on with my breathing? What do I notice about this sensation? We want to use the mind in that way versus that sort of sharp, judgmental, comparing mind that can paralyze people and ramp up their anxiety even more. I work with people in that way, and I might take them through a grounding meditation so they can feel invited to come back into their bodies, but also to connect with the natural energy flows that are there as support, which is pretty monumental for most people because it's not a place that society tends to live in. So getting into the flow of what is there for us already feels supported. And then I work manually with people to help them a little biofeedback to help their bodies recognize some of these habitual tensions. Because there's only a certain amount of tension that's required for us to hold ourselves up in gravity. And then there's all the ways that we might be holding ourselves as bracing as we walk through the world that feels so dangerous and has been for many of us in varied ways. When we have no awareness of those habits, we cannot alter them. They rule us. They rule our experience, and there's a physiology feedback loop with that as well. If your nervous system is trying to tell you about something that happened 5 or 20 years ago, it's going to keep bringing it up in your body. And so once someone's starting to have more ability to be with themselves and with a certain curiosity, I help them be with the feeling so it can move through their system. It's really amazing. Bodies are incredible. It's really amazing what happens when they don't have to hold it anymore. When this thing they've been carrying and holding and protecting and also avoiding, it has its own pull, its own way of distorting things. And when you let that go, there's a lot more energy we can use in a forward motion towards the things we actually want. And that's physically, mentally, emotionally. What I love about hypnosis is we can actually get that alignment mentally by going down that path. We bring in the rich experiences of the mind and memories as well. It feels like magic because going back in time in my history and re-experiencing it in a way that feels safe and empowered is pretty. We did that session, you and me, when I
Yep.
got to see my grandmother. It was really like she was in the room with me. It was pretty incredible.
You remember one you did with me where I think you took me all the way back to when I was 7. You probably remember that, Chloe. Yeah, that was, whoa, I was not expecting that.
We do get some
Uh,
surprises.
that was very cool. Cool revivifying my childhood in Germany with very German, mostly Scandinavian mutt, we call it. But yeah, it was really cool to experience that until I went through that experience myself. We think that would convince somebody how powerful this is. It's convincing, but if you've had negative talk, if you've had that, it's hard to defeat that. What's been powerful for me is watching this transformation happen again. It's like I keep thinking it's not going to, and it does. And people carry themselves differently. They walk out of the office differently when they came in. It's tremendous. Here's the thing for anybody listening and want them to think about. We're talking about people, there's nothing actually really wrong with them, right? It's just normal, everyday people living in this world, and all of the messaging we get about here's what you do for anxiety. Are you in therapy? Are you on medication? Are you doing both? What are you diagnosed with? What's wrong with you? The reality, given the things that have happened to you in your past, things on your plate now, anxiety is actually the correct response.
You bring up an interesting point. We're living in a world that is overwhelming to our nervous system because we are the same as we have been as a species for a very long time. And we haven't grown or evolved whatever might be the best fit for blue lights or strobe lights, or nature's keeping up with it better than expected, but we haven't made that leap. And technology is moving so fast, I don't think it's really possible. However, what do we do in the meantime? How do we have a good life where we are able to make good choices for ourselves? And I think that's one of the things that is a passion for me about doing this type of work. The more in your own self that a person can be, the more safety that we feel in our nervous systems, the greater capacity we have to make choices based on what's best for us as individuals. When we are hijacked, overloaded, when our system can't take any more in, we're pretty easy to manipulate. With that, we get some confusion about what would be best. I have times where eating an entire bag of popcorn and watching TV is where it's at. And I know I'm choosing that because that's the better choice for me. If you were to look at my history, there's been things that I've chosen in the past that have been quite destructive. I don't do it every day, but there are times where I'm just like, today's the day. That's what I'm going to do. Turn on a show, get on my phone and flip through Instagram or something. Ways, right? It's really keeping you spinning on the hamster wheel. It doesn't really solve the issue, which is overwhelm. Really common. I run into people who have a nighttime routine where they're, okay, it's 8 o'clock or it's 8:30. And so here's the time where I'm going to brush my teeth, turn down all the lights and not give myself anything scary to look at. I'm going to just I'm going to read myself a children's book. However, there really aren't people who talk about how they lower the level of stimulation for themselves. It's actually a pretty important process because we are overstimulated. By the time you get home from work, what has happened with your day? How many hours have you been staring at a screen? What kind of stuff did your boss say to you? How long did you sit in traffic? Did you get the call to pick up something for dinner? What's going on with the kids? How long was the radio on? Who was talking about what? Did you listen to news?
I've been doing my hypnotic cue down here just to calm down.
Just for me listing all those things off, is that what you're saying?
Which of those am I forgetting?
If we don't have a way to come back down, we tend to stay up. We want people to have the full range of their nervous systems and their emotional selves. I'm not looking to create people who have stupid smiles on their face all the time. It's about the range. Being able to take yourself into that safe place when it's time. And also being able to Do your karate kicks when you need to. The range is important.
I totally agree. I think that gets to the purpose of anxiety, the purpose of a distraction. Anxiety is something you relieve and not something you get rid of. It serves a protective function. There are some things you should be anxious about. That's the appropriate response. But when you're on a rut of anxiety, you're not able to break out of the pattern. Does that mean there's something wrong with you? And I think the answer is emphatically no. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That just means you are anxious about something and controlling you to a point where your quality of life is hampered. It's really hampered. And I'm speaking from experiences. And Angie, as you were going through these sort of hot button topic items, that was my past life. Not that I don't stare a lot of, I'm a nerd. So I have technology all over my office. I've got more of a technology, neuroscience centric practice. When you think about people coming to you for this and everything in your toolbox, what can people expect? For example, someone dealing with ongoing people pleasing, self sabotage. I don't want to upset anybody. I'm always anxious. I think I'm always in trouble. I see this all the time. What's your approach? I know everyone's different. What might that person encounter with you?
My ears will perk up because what I'm hunting for is the need that isn't being fulfilled for this person.
Okay.
Safety could be it. It could be attached to safety, but I'm looking for what is the need? Does that person know what their need is? How do we get them to a place where they can listen to their own cues around their own needs? So much of what we experience takes us out of our bodies, and that is a trauma response. However, there's also just real attention traps everywhere. Things that are pulling you out of your experience. Exactly. Much of how we're geared right now around entertainment, around media, is all designed to pull us out of our own experience. When we're in that place of being pulled out, we can't know anything about ourselves. We can't know about how we feel. We can't really know our own needs. For many of us, at least in my generation, it's like needs. Who has those, right? That was the tone for childhood. Don't have any needs. That's a bad idea. Nothing will ever fulfill them. Don't talk about it. Don't expect it to be fulfilled. And that, at least for me, was the tone of the household that I grew up in. Learning to fulfill my own needs took a lot of education for me to even know what they were. Loads of people have no clue. They just have this pang, this fear, this haunting. To gather enough information about ourselves, we have to go in. This is an internal experience. What's wonderful about hypnosis, we're going in. We're not out. We're not going to the moon. We're going into our own experiences, our own bodies, our own senses. We're gathering information. The only person who can be an expert on you, really, is you. And so guiding someone into that experience of what types of questions so that you can know more about yourself. That's largely what I do with all of the modalities, is be with someone in a way where they can allow themselves the question, what is this like? How does this feel? Where did this come from? How do I process this?
Yeah.
Those leading, and we all do it a little bit differently. And that's what's fun for me. No two people are the same. There are some similar themes, sure. We all have pretty basic needs that we need filled as children, but learning to mine for those, learning to explore those for ourselves, that's the only place that you really find relief. Because I can do a lot of other things, but if I'm not attending to the actual need, that's satisfying. And that took me a really long time to even honestly doing a big project and getting to the other side of it and feeling satisfied. I had no connection to that at all. So I've had to train myself for it. It just wasn't part of what happened for me. And I think that's true for many people. In the end, the good news is I know how to fulfill my own needs. When I need somebody else to give me a hug or say nice things to me, I can ask for it. I just texted a friend the other day. I need someone to tell me that I'm pretty. Because I was just having a bad day. I was like, "Ah, I just need to hear something nice. Say something nice to me."
When the voice inside your head is sabotaging you and like your worst critic, I have this whole rant I go on about how you're punishing something that's helpless, that's defenseless. I know we're going to run out of time here before too long, but I wanted to give anyone listening an overview. Hypnosis and this type of work can be very vague for people. They'll go to someone's website. I think you and I saw someone and we're looking at ourselves and trying to assess, what is it you do? It looked like a real estate ad that we were watching where someone arches their back and I look really good on camera. This is how I am. I want to understand if you're telling me that hypnosis and hypnotherapy isn't month after month, year after year. In my practice, I take a HSA and FSA. Insurance almost never covers hypnosis. And anyone dealing with insurance nowadays knows it's almost impossible to really work with them. I'm not saying so much from my standpoint, it's also for my clients. I get medical referrals and that could change it, but I've not had any of those successfully reimbursed yet. So we'll keep trying. But when someone comes in here, what I'll do with them, usually an hour and a half or 2 hour intake session, and that's complimentary. There'll be a link in the video below where you can book that session if you want. Angie, if you've got something like that, we'll throw that in there too. What I do there is really listen. Then there's a few things I also do that are just practical. I give an interval test, which is a hypnotizability test that assesses where you are in terms of your hypnotizability. And all that does is that helps me understand what tactics and techniques are going to be more successful with you. I don't do the same thing with everybody, no matter who comes in the door. I don't just throw spaghetti against the wall, so to speak, and say, how does that work? What I do is based on factual evidence. This is what works for this personality type, for this ability to be hypnotized. There's some pretty interesting studies for things that improve hypnotizability in subjects. Then I will do a hypnosis session after getting a whole client profile. That hypnosis session is pretty brief, and usually we're dealing with really just calm and reset in the nervous system. That does a few things. It gives the client an ability to understand, okay, I've never been hypnotized before. What is it actually like? It's not mind control. It's not going to make you quack like a duck. I'm going to do it to some kids when they come around for trick-or-treating. I'm going to be the Stanwood hypnotist and bring your kids by and I'll hypnotize them and do something weird. Maybe I'll make them think they're Optimus Prime or something. After the end of that session, if that client decides they're going to come on board with me, we'll schedule out all of their sessions, usually once a week. I've done some clients that are more condensed. That very first one that I talked to you about that moved to Portugal, I did her in 2 weeks, mainly because we were on a time crunch. Then after we go through those sessions, usually between 4 to 6 sessions, I'll bundle it as a package. We'll figure out how we can make that affordable for people. Before they come in for their first paid session, they'll get a couple of customized hypnosis recordings that are based on the interview on the intake and everything that we've learned with them in the free consultation. So you leave here with self-hypnosis tools that are customized to you. They're not generic. Nobody else has them. You actually end up with your own private podcast to listen to as you're going through the session courses here. By the end, you have mastered the art of self-hypnosis. With that, you're able to take everything you learn here and apply it for the rest of your life. I take my role as facilitator to heart. There's nothing special about hypnosis knowledge. I'm not there to rewire your brain. The knowledge and the wisdom and everything that you need is inside of you to be able to get your brain and your mind to do what you want. It's not doing it. All I do is I help you connect the dots. Once you learn, you don't need me anymore. And humans improve with practice. You get incredibly better with this over time. So anxiety doesn't go away. Conflict doesn't go away. But your resiliency becomes stoic. It becomes profound. Speak from experience, what I'm able to endure compared to what I used to, I'm a different person. I would have changed my career in technology to go into this if I didn't believe in the power of it. So I know it's me doing my typical explaining too much. I think I always have an audience, even if nobody's listening. But in terms of the biggest myth with anxiety, I think we've busted that. Anxiety is a signal for us. Angie, my last question for you is, what's one small trance or mindset shift you would invite people to try? Something that integrates different modalities or something they could take away. I'm feeling this now. I clicked on this because I was hoping to get some help. What would you do?
I always have people tune into their breath. It is the way in which we can interact with our own levels of stress. The breath is, we can have it unconsciously or we can have it consciously. We can impact the rhythm of it. Big diaphragmatic breath. I work with people to help them into the feel of that. And it's really easy. It's just breathing into your belly, right? And we want your belly to go out a little bit, but we don't want to really push it out. The in breath, like the belly out. And then as the breath is released, we want that to on its own just flow up, right? Getting into a rhythm with that puts your heart at a particular rhythm, and your heart is the boss when it comes to the rhythms of your other organs, right? The brain has got a lot of opinions about things, but when it comes to the rhythm of the body, that's what we want to do. We want to bring it down, right? If you're breathing really quickly, if you're breathing shallow, that sends a signal to your body that things aren't safe, that you might have to get up and run. So watch your caffeine intake. I know I can't drink as much as I used to.
I nursed that first cup of coffee for quite a while, and I used to power down 3, and then I would start drinking coffee.
So watch your caffeine intake and let yourself have an internal experience. Closing your eyes, taking a big belly breath, counting, have the out breath be a couple more counts than the in breath, right? Connect with yourself as animal.
Angie, this has been great. And you do a lot of your work online?
I do a bit of work online. It's a different experience to be in person with me, but all are valuable. So I can make those somatic adaptations.
For those out there, I've had the pleasure of experiencing both with Angie, remote first and in person. If you're not experiencing, you're definitely missing out.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Craig. Very gentle, a very gentle leader and compassionate and curious. And those are all such important qualities to have as a facilitator.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for spending time.
Yes. Ah, wonderful. I hate being indoors.
Weird.
Yeah, so it's Friday. There's still some sunlight left. I think I'm going to enjoy the rest of the day out there. Really loved our talk, and we'll have to do this again.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Angie.
Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.